Welcome to another video. Today I have a very special game. It is a game from Dolf Wissmann and he is from our club, the Red Bishop, the Rode Loper. And he won against the grandmaster. So I would like to show you the game. So I will go to the scene and go from the start. And Dolf Wissmann has the black pieces and Paul Motwani, a Scottish grandmaster, is starting with e4, so we go for g6, and Dolf Wissmann likes to play the modern. Not sure why, but that's his choice. He plays d4, bishop g7, very standard stuff. Knight to c3. Now d6. It looks like a King's Indian a little bit, but it's a little bit different because you have different choices. Knight to d7, and now he went for, normally you go for e5, and that is the main line, and he's going for the third move, and that is c5. And apparently Paul Motwani did prep a little bit, so he is still in prep and played d5. And now Dolf Wissmann played a6. And knight to b5 is, you just stop knight to b5, but a6 is in very, a lot of openings, is a very good move. And he's preparing obviously to play b5, and you need to stop that for some reason, and because b5, b4 is really strong, so you play a4, and now you just stop it. You go a little bit forward and you stop b5, but now take, and you lose the rook. So b6, the best move was knight gf6 and just castle a little bit quicker. But b6 is also perfectly fine. I must say it's also already +1. I'm not sure for a human perspective if it's a +1 you can take advantage of, but I prefer to have +1 than not. So bishop b7, knight to d2, and probably bishop f4 maybe a little bit better, but okay. Rook a3 is also a move apparently from the engine, but let's forget that move. Yeah, knight to d2. Knight gf6, developing, very nice. Castle, and now still rook a3 apparently. Bishop f1. He's trying to get all his pieces back to the starting square for some reason. Queen b8, and now it's a new game. They're out of theory, even from the Leech's database, so all the databases. And Queen b8 is quite a funny move because it's a move. You probably defend d6, right? But it looks a little bit silly, but it's a good move. Dolf is playing really well at this point. Knight to c4. And now you can play b5 with a little bit of a trick, right? Because if you take, and now you take on a8, you take with the bishop, and now you're defending b5. And you're also already quite a bit, it's definitely equal, but it's tempo, you have b4, and the pieces are already developed. You don't need to develop this piece because the rook is gone, right? So b5 is a great move. So taking is not ideal, and if you take with a knight, it's obviously losing because of the rook who's hanging. So yeah, b5 is a great move. Knight to a5. Yeah, it's not really bad to lose this, right? The bishop is not doing that much. You really want to get rid of the pawns first, but then again, there's also a bishop on f8, so. Yeah, trading the knight for the bishop is not really bad for black, I suppose. But you have a b4 in, so that's really nice. He is going back with all his pieces, so he has a little bit of a plus 0.7. But yeah, it looks really weird, right? I'm sure he's a grandmaster, but I think you're supposed to put all your pieces in somewhere here, maybe even here, which is also a great idea. But yeah, it's a gem, so we go with the flow. E6, and now I'm pretty sure e6 is not an ideal move because you're straight up gonna lose a pawn, right? So if you're gonna take, and now you're gonna take on b7. You have to take, and now you lose a pawn. So now, and suddenly the pieces maybe can come to life pretty quickly. You also need to deal with this move, which is also a little bit of a problem. So now white is a very logical bet, right? But he didn't go for that. He went for c4, and now Dolf is already a little bit better, minus 0.4. So that's great. Take, which is, yeah, you should play rook e8 or something, and probably just keep the square. So he has to develop the knight on d7 as well. And this is a really nice nice pawn, right? Because this is a weakness in the future maybe. Takes, and you can defend. So maybe do, yeah, rook e8, do something about it. So rook e8, maybe take with the rook, so you defend. So now take on b7, the same idea, but now it's defended by the rook. So yeah, therefore rook e8. Yeah, but en passant is also a really nice move to play. It looks like you know a lot of things about chess. Knight to c6, but c3. But now it's very natural square. So in the future maybe you can yeah. And this square is also covered by. But now Dolf saw probably that this is gonna be losing a pawn. So very good idea to trade that piece off. Knight to b6, bishop g5, which is not really a pin, but okay. Yeah, and now you can just count, right? You can also calculate, but you have 3 attackers, and if you're gonna capture on b7, you're gonna take with the queen, and still 3 attackers, so 1, 2 defenders, and you're just gonna grab a pawn, right? So you're up a pawn against the grandmaster. Probably not gonna win at this point, but it's still 0.8 for white, which is quite funny. But maybe psychological, it's not feeling too great. So just going for the pawn. So if this moves, the pawn is gonna drop. h6, bishop h4. Yeah, that's a good move. Bishop to e5. But now there's a little bit of a problem, because I probably went for it, right? Knight takes b7 again, and now you can pause the video and see the little tactic. I would probably play it in a game, but he didn't for some reason. And the move is knight takes c5. You just remove the defender of this. It looks really solid, but you can rip it apart really quickly. And now it's +2 for white. So I'm not sure why he didn't went for this. Yeah, because that's but he played a5, and now you can play knight d7, and now the tactic doesn't work because it's defended. So yeah, it's not an ideal response. Bishop to c4, and now you go to f4. You just go forward. That's very nice. Can you take this pawn? That is a question. Nope, you cannot, because of mate. That is that's a very funny tactic. Maybe he blunders once in a while, and it's Gukesh, for example, blundered also a rook with check. So yeah, everyone can blunder. But now the biggest problem of the game, from Paul Motwani, in my opinion and others' opinion as well, is g3. It is a very odd looking move, right? Because g5 is already trapping the bishop, but there's not a really there's a very good square on h3, which Dolf played, so that's very nice. But if you go back, it's very bad, because bishop d5 is also really a big problem, but also knight takes d6 is a problem. There's a lot of problems. So he was hoping that Dolf would go back, but he went to h3. And now he played king g2, and that's a blunder. And it's a blunder because if you take, you cannot take with a knight. So he was supposed to play king f1. And if you take now with a knight on f2, you can take with this knight because it's not pinned. And now on b, it's still +1. So yeah, do you want to take on b2, queen g4? because normally you can just take and win the exchange, but now you go here and now there's not a big threat, and there is probably a really big threat. The threat is also queen takes g6 because it's pinned. Big trouble from here. So yeah, you're after king f1, you're not supposed to take on f2, and maybe, yeah, still queen g3, same idea, but now the knight is hanging, and this is not mate because it's defended. So yeah, it's not a free pawn. Too bad. Bishop to d4. Wait, that was a different move. But now you can take on f2 because he cannot take. And if you're gonna take with a king, and now you have a problem because now you take on b2 with check, and that is an issue because now you can, for example, take on a1. There are more moves winning, but now you're just gonna win the exchange. And the sad move about g3 is g5, and now it's a really sad bishop, really absolutely sad bishop. Now it's a little bit more happy, but you had to sacrifice the knight, so that's a problem. That's a really big problem. So it's -3, so that's pretty much losing. So he didn't went for this, he went for bishop to d5. That is a problem, right? But Dolf, really tactical player, he went for knight takes d1. So now you have to take the queen, and now the problem with this move is, well, it's forced because you take the queen, right? Rook a7. You can also play rook ba, but rook a7 is more, it's the best move. So yeah, why not play the best move? The best move is probably because you defend the knight. If you go here, you can attack it, and you need to calculate a little bit more. Do you need to defend it? You can just first take with check and then probably move it with a tempo. But rook a7 is probably more easy. Now you have to go back because now it's not a threat. He went here, and now you take on b2, and now the problem is, this is still a really sad bishop, and here is also a little bit of a tactic problem, because the bishop is eyeballing the rook a1, and the knight is also possible to play d3, and then attacking the other rook, so then you're gonna lose a rook. So now he has to play, for example, rook b1, but now you have g5. Yes, you're gonna 2 pawns for the piece, but still, it is 2 pawns for the piece. He went back, attacking the rook. The rook went to e4, king g7, very useful move, getting out of the pin. Bishop e7, now really fancy move. Knight f6, you're attacking twice, so taking the exchange, and now there's a check, and you can probably save this, save the bishop, but still you have to do a lot of work to save it. He went to king g7, and now attacking the knight, so you need to move the knight with a threat on the bishop. Need to move the bishop to f3, knight c2, attacking the rook again, doubling up. But now the beautiful part about the bishop is that it's quite untouchable. It is, you can only sacrifice the rook for the piece. So yeah, that's not a great idea. So it's pretty much untouchable, and therefore you can play c4 quite easy with a tempo. He went to this move, to the b7, but yeah, b1 was a little bit better. Well, this was the second move, so yeah, why not? But rook b1 is just keeping 2 rooks on the board, right? And this is not really active. You can make it active pretty quickly, but yeah, it's already completely losing. But the finish is pretty nice. Yeah, now just take off the pieces. He's taken with the bishop because you cannot defend this. And now you're just gonna push the pawn again. You're gonna lose this pawn. Very nice setup with this move, because probably you want to go here, move the piece, and just promote, right? You don't want to rook on c8, because now you're gonna play knight to c5, and then you can just promote. And now a very cool move and that is knight b4. And in this move he also resigned, which is pretty amazing. He looked for 15 minutes apparently to this move, because you might think you can just take and then put the rook behind, but that's the whole problem. You're gonna take, and now you're gonna push the pawn. The bishop cannot stop the pawn anymore. With the rook on a b1, you're gonna take with check, which is also silly. And because it's not on c8, it is now here. This is a problem because of the check. For example, king e2, and now you take. You cannot take because you're gonna promote. And the problem is the pawn is defending d1 and the knight is defending d2, and king d3 doesn't make any sense because you're gonna promote. So the two most important squares are covered. The bishop doesn't do anything. You're too late to promote, and yeah, it's resignable. It's absolutely resignable. So yeah, the best move according to the engine is taking, but that loses by force. So yeah, very cool ending. So yeah, Dolf winning against the grandmaster. So congratulations, Dolf, if you watch this video, because I will probably send it to you. And yeah, very cool victory. And hopefully I will play soon against the grandmaster and maybe win. So yeah, thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.